What's up, y'all? Welcome back to a Thursday episode of Clapback Culture. I'm your girl, Jules Jessie, here in the flesh alongside my co-host, JC. What it do? What it do?
What's going on? What's going on? How you doing tonight, Jules? How you doing?
Man, listen, it's been tonight was kind of hectic. It took me a lot to get myself together for tonight's show. But other than that, I've been having like a great week. I had a really good, productive day. What about you? How was your week? How's your week been?
What's today? Thursday? My week has been.
Hey.
Well, I guess I should mention yesterday was my birthday, so I mean that was cool.
Oh, well,
Um,
happy belated birthday.
thank you. And my week's been chill. My weeks have been weird for here lately. It's not as busy as I would like it to be.
Uh-huh.
And I guess that's a good thing. Maybe that's the calm before the storm. And I'm not used to chilling. I'm a Capricorn. Like we work. That's what we do. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like laying on the couch playing video games. Like I need to be building an
Man,
empire or something.
I agree. It's very hard for me to kind of woo-saw and chill. I mean, even more so with the baby. I did a thread on Facebook earlier this week, and I just went back to check it today. But I posted it on Monday, basically saying like, they always tell new moms sleep when the baby sleeps, but I just don't know how to do that because when the babies sleep, there's like so much other stuff I need to get done that
So
I'm
when do you
like,
sleep?
I'm not doing that.
So when do you sleep?
I mean, in bits and pieces, when I get an
That means none.
opportunity,
Okay.
man. But listen, I'm like, there's still too much to be done throughout the day. So even now, just like putting the show together, I was like, dang, I got so much other stuff I need to do right before that I think I haven't naturally broken out of like my entrepreneurial spirit of like being this
Okay.
go-getter into kind of like figuring out what my new routine is. So shout out to all the moms out there, especially the single moms who are doing this on their own, because I don't
Jesus.
know how you do it.
That's what I was about to
All
say.
right.
How is new motherhood treating you? That's always what I'm kind of thinking about. Like, how are you?
And new motherhood is treating me great. Honestly, I have a really great baby. He's great. He's been keeping me up though. He's a little monster at night because all he wants to do is eat, and I'm just his. But he's great. Other than that, I mean, you just have this little monster who loves you so much, and you love them so much. It's like they can do no wrong, and they're just so sweet. Everything about them is so sweet. I see why people post their kids all the time now because you're so in love. You think everyone
Don't be
else
that
loves
mom.
them
Don't be
too.
that mom. Don't be that mom.
I'm trying not to.
Don't be
I
that
get
mom.
it now. I get it. I get it. Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Clapback Culture. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it. I don't know if you guys have heard, but coming off of the holiday weekend, more issues with cancellations of flight. But this time it was canceled probably because of a damaged database file. So after thousands of flights were canceled on Wednesday, the Federal Aviation Administration is saying basically after their preliminary investigation that it could have been caused by this database file. Well, this is almost 7,000 flights, you guys, that were canceled coming into, within, or going out of the country that were delayed. And just over 1,100 were canceled altogether. So this is crazy. Basically, everything went dark on Tuesday morning when I woke up. It's a system called NOTAM, Notice to Air Missions. And this is like air traffic control, the FAA, you guys. And this is what alerts pilots and airports in real time of hazards. So they had to stop everything. They would not let any of these flights go. Thus far, they're saying there's no evidence of a cyber attack, which would have been super critical and crazy. But yeah, they're just saying right now, we just think it's a damaged database file, but this has huge ramifications, not only for airlines but travelers as well. And so this is coming off the bat of like a really terrible flight experience, I think, coming off of Christmas rolling into New Year's. So many cancellations and delays. Southwest, we know they took a huge hit during that time period. But I guess I'm just surprised, JC, that this could actually happen, that we would have had, this kind of like huge delay, kind of through nothing, a database file.
So I immediately saw this and thought it was a hack. I'm not even going to front. I still think it was a hack. I don't expect the government to claim that it was a hack because you want to keep the peace and so on and so forth, all that good stuff. I think it was a hack personally, but I also want to remind people, because a lot of people really disregard astrology, but we're in Mercury retrograde, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you don't know anything about Mercury retrograde, when Mercury goes backwards, communications mess up, right? And the last time Mercury retrograde happened, Facebook went down, and that was when the whole Instagram outage. So every time Mercury retrograde happens, something bad happens. And so, as I like to say to people, you don't have to believe in astrology because astrology believes in you. So I just want to remind everybody that no big. If I'm not mistaken, it's over on the 20th. So if you can't help it, don't sign no major contracts, don't do no major deals, don't do no major traveling. All of those good things. So Mercury retrograde is real. Want to let y'all know that. All right, that's it.
I agree with you, brother. I agree with you on that. Thanks for dropping that gem into the environment, man. I'm telling you, a lot of people go through it. They go through it, especially when it's around their moon cycle. So we'll see if you come through and drop some of those gems, man. Drop some of those gems. We want to definitely continue to talk about that. I want to say what's up to our party people chiming in online. What's up, Dominique? What's up, Pander and Pelosi? Darnell, the good brother Darnell. Glad to see you back here. Shout out to you guys for showing up again and showing up in the comments. If you guys are viewing, please tap in. We want to talk to you guys and see what you guys are thinking. New updates. Your boy Damar Hamlin has now been discharged from the hospital. Not only discharged, but home with his family to continue his recovery. You guys, we reported about this last week. If you remember, he is the Buffalo Bills safety that suffered a cardiac arrest while collapsing during a game against the Cincinnati Bengals on January the 2nd. Well, he has had one hell of a recovery period. Doctors said that he completed a series of tests and evaluations, and that they're confident that Damar can safely discharge and continue his rehabilitation at home with the Bills. And so this is great news. You think, 12 days ago, this guy suffered from cardiac arrest. His heart stopped, I think, not once, but twice. And, the UCMC physicians really praised the first responders who were able to initiate that immediate care for him, performing CPR and using a defibrillator. So shout out to those first responders for really implementing those life-saving, critical actions in that moment to save this young man's life. But yeah, they said he's been walking, he's talking, he's eating regular food, and he's very much normal, but that he's on an accelerated trajectory to recovery. So that's great news.
My question is, who are the doctors checking? Is this like a real hospital? This isn't the NFL doctors, is it? Because we discussed how how on a whim the NFL doctors might be like, yeah, he's fine, let him play, and he passes out in the field again. They're like, oh, we don't know what happened, we cleared him. So I want to make sure these are real, actual medical professionals checking this man out, making sure he's okay to play.
It is a collaboration of medical professionals, and the physicians at the hospitals are also in conversation and coordinating with the physicians on the Buffalo Bills. So there is both. Another thing, though, is the NFL said that they are not going to reschedule this game that was stopped in the first quarter, which, remember, there was a lot of controversy and conversation around that. But they said that this will have no effect on which clubs will qualify for the postseason. So this is cool. I think, at the end of the day, that was such a crazy game. I think that's too much ammunition,
too much to replay. To run it back. We could just we could just call a spade on that one. Like, just
I agree. I think this is Cardiac arrest is considered a life-threatening event. Obviously, if your heart stops
Yes.
and then you're just back at it, you're going home and recovering at your parents' house. I mean, this is like the best news that you can possibly have. I know his mother and father are extremely happy. Um, I mean, we'll continue to watch this. I mean, based on our last conversation, though, I'm more interested to see what happens post care. So what happens to him? Is he going to get back on the field? If he's not going to get back on the field, how is the NFL and the Bills going to really really support this young man in his recovery and in his future? So I'm interested to see what is going to go on there. Guys, what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we're happy D3 is back, making it happen. But just let us know in the comments if you think the NFL is going to support this young man getting back into this one.
I'm also interested to see surrounding like all of the attention that's been placed on like the contract negotiations. I'm interested to see if whoever the union is for the NFL can use this as a spearhead to go back in to renegotiate some of those terms that are in the current contract agreement to maybe, I guess, readjust for situations like these, especially like this young man is like 23 years old. Like this isn't something that a cardiac arrest for someone in their early 20s. It's not something that is usual. Like it's very unusual. So in this instance, I'm wondering like, hey, maybe we can go back in, whoever, hey, Mr. Contract, NFL people, can we please take a look at what's happening in the contract? Please go back and pay attention to some of the people that are on CNN, on ESPN, on Converge Media. Hey, shameless plug. And, actually go back in and take a look at and see if we can fix some things and get these people some help when these people actually have these like life-altering moments. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm hearing from the back. Cuddy just chimed in and said that they're paying out his full contract despite his IR clause. So
okay,
dope. I asked Cuddy, is it confirmed? He said confirm, you guys. So that's all we really want to see here is to see organizations be held accountable for something like that. Because I was having a conversation with Rodney tonight, and we were talking about hazardous pay. If police officers get paid hazardous pay for going out into these dangerous environments and these dangerous situations, the same kind of situation should be held for other jobs that are dangerous as hell, which
I agree.
NFL is a part of that. So dope. I'm glad to see the NFL stepping up in this instance.
This one time.
This one time. And we should continue to hold organizations accountable for things like this. Period. Oh yeah. Okay. So people are saying that flight attendants should also, have this too. I agree. Shoot. Dominique says, I need hazard pay for working in Southeast. Hey, listen, sis.
You ain't never lied. You ain't never lied.
You got to work in these trenches. It's given. I need a little time and a half pay. Okay. Let's keep it going. All right. Well, listen, last week we were talking about porn, and we were talking about a new legislation that is making folks have to show their ID before they can participate in Pornhub. Well, we have a little bit more news on the matter, and it's not necessarily tied to this legislation, you guys, but Pornhub is showing a rise in trans porn viewership, and it's exposing the lack of Black trans protection. So according to the website Pornhub, the 2022 year in review, transgender, the category there is being ranked the 7th most popular category globally and the 3rd most popular on the site. Now, ironically, trans adults entertainment is steadily increasing at a time trans and queer rights are under attack. We do know that the GOP is also GOP lawmakers are attacking the trans and queer community. Like they're wanting to ban drag brunches in various states, which is ridiculous, along with other political efforts to limit queer liberation and joy. JC, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it seems like oftentimes we see transgender individuals who often are, work and become sex workers because they often don't have an outlet to have high ranking jobs, right? Or even I would just say normal jobs like waitressing, right? Because
Right.
they're often ostracized from the community. I know I spoke with one trans woman and she was telling me that, yeah, they'll have me work the back of the house at the restaurant, but they'll never put me in the front.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's so that's a powerful statement for somebody who wouldn't necessarily see their plight. If I'm a trans woman, I'm going into sex work because people have a fetish and they can fetish with me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I want to be a CEO of a company, no one is going to take me serious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this is showing that this ranking is showing that, yeah, the seventh most popular in the world globally for the number one
Yes.
porn site,
Yes.
seventh, in a time where viewership is at its all-time high.
It's
um,
also it's interesting to me too that some of the highest rates of trans porn viewership or the increase are in states with the most strictest trans anti-legislation laws, like states like
hmm,
Texas, states like Florida, states like Oklahoma, states like Louisiana. Most of the southern states, ironically, have some of the highest rates of trans viewership and have some of the most restrictive trans and queer anti-legislation. So that's just the first thing. It's just this kind of, I always think it's interesting how like you said, good enough to sleep with, but not good enough to walk down the street with, not good enough to be treated like a regular human being, not good enough to be treated and given, rights and respect and just the common human decency. I have a friend right now that works inside of the Department of Children Welfare Services for Georgia. And he works in essentially what you might call a group home, right? It's called DFACS. So it's where orphans are placed when they are about to age out of the system. And
okay.
so some of the kids that are like the most at risk are the trans and the queer kids, right? It's
Oh yeah.
specifically the queer kids because everything is based off of money. So if you might get $160 for a straight black male in your house or in your system, you may only get $110 for a trans black kid, right? And that can add up to upwards of, because this is 120 to 100 and like whatever per amount per day, so that can add up to
Wow.
anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 per month depending on the case, right? And so you have these kids that desperately need attention and desperately need help that can't get it because our country and our system likes to reduce people to numbers and actually doesn't take into account their humanity, right? So it just makes me think of all of those things. It's a direct kind of like parallel from the school to prison pipeline. You have the orphan to prison to sex work to whatever pipeline, because a lot of times these kids aren't even given the basic resources to be able to be functional members of society. So it's just it's kind of makes me angry. But what you gonna do?
This is this is actually the second time you've discussed the value of a person
Mhm.
in actual dollars, and it reminds me of a piece of legislation from I work for a city council member. I work for Council Member Tran White here in DC, and
Shout
one
out.
of the bills that he introduced is called the Stormaya Denson Jackson Race and Gender Economic Damages Equality Amendment Act of 2020. Okay, that's fully loaded, right?
Right.
But essentially, and that's how laws are. Like you kind of
Right.
load it up, but essentially, it's to ban the discrimination in the loss of life in court damage determination. So the way that you're thinking about it, JC, is actually how the court of law looks at it. And so it'll say the loss of life for a white male is they're at a set standard. Let's say they're at $200,
Okay.
and then a a white woman would be $175,
Right.
and then a black male would be $125, and then a black woman would be like $75 or whatever the case may be. But
Right.
there is there is this loss amount that has to be determined. So courts really have to take into considerations, okay, this person had a college degree, this person was this age, this person was this race, this person was married. All of those things make a determination in your value. And so this bill was essentially to ban that discrimination and loss and say, listen, we don't want, you can't say one life is overvalued than the other. We can determine a value in the loss amount, but we can't have those discriminating factors be calculated into those damage determinations.
Correct.
So
And
there are,
go
ahead.
And you know where this comes from. And you know where this comes from, right? You know, this is slavery all day. Like this is this is slavery all day. This was okay. We got 2 winches and they look like they can work in the field and bear children. We're gonna give $50 for the 2 of them, but this old one with the messed up leg, we're gonna give her 15. Like this is a direct thing from slavery. So it's just America.
This is America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see Mama Harriet tapping in saying slavery. Yep, exactly. Well, I'm glad that we brought a little bit of light to that topic. Look, let's take a quick break. But when we come back, I want to do it for the culture, you guys. I want to shine some light on Meek Mill and Kevin Hart donating millions of dollars to private schools out in Philly. Stay tuned. You're watching Clapback Culture.
Hey guys, Basic Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trey Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
Prosperity in Black America. What will this require? Is Black business prospering? Are we reaching women and minority-owned businesses? How do we achieve earning parity for wealth for our families? Do our children really have access to education? Will our families have choices for our children? Prison pipelines, mass incarceration, tearing our families apart. Healthcare system not accessible to the masses, the disproportionate termination of Black women from corporate America. When will we actually begin to address what's really at play? How do Black people gain more power to help make these changes? This requires a lot of political will and courage. I'm that provocateur of change. I am Cindy Bright. Welcome to Heartbeat.
Babe, I'm live. All right, y'all. You know, it's funny, JC, and I'll share with the viewing audience. You know, Rodney has only been home a couple months. He came home in April, but since he's been back, like we oftentimes catch each other, like just being super in sync. I'm over here being a super fat kid. I'm telling him to make some chocolate chip cookies. He's already in the bag, greasing the pan. Like just little things. We're just on the same wave, you know. So shout out to Black Love one time. I told y'all to nominate me for the show.
Can you put the link somewhere so people can do it? Can we put the link?
That link for us.
Yeah, Cuddy, put the link up, man.
I'm trying to go on Trey Holiday show, the next season of Black Love. Come on now. Throw me in there, coach. All right. So a feel-good story. Wanted to bring this up because Meek Mill is always in the news for something grimy or corny or cheesy or greasy or having to apologize or something. But he does a lot of work in community. And I want to shout him out. Meek Mill and Kevin Hart were both students in Philly public schools, and now they want to give back And they want to give parents a choice of school their children can attend. So they're donating $7 million to private schools, not public schools, but to private schools in Philly, with the idea that this is going to contribute to tax credit programs that will support students who may not otherwise have an opportunity. But this money is going to be, kind of put into these schools to cover scholarships for low to moderate income students during this school year, the 2023-2024 school year. These scholarships are going to be across about 60 different private school campuses. It's, there to cover tuition, classroom resources. They're also going to put some funding in for laptops, tablets, and Wi-Fi connection. One thing we should also know is that Meek Mill is out here like doing it for the people. I had no idea, but in this same article that I read, he also bailed out 20 women from the Riverside Correctional Facility in Philly so that they could go home for the holidays. He did that in December of last year, or a couple weeks ago. And the women were reportedly received gift cards meant for groceries or gifts as a part of their release. Shout out to you, Meek Mill.
I just want to say and drop a little information on the people. While I'm happy that this happened, it really shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be a need for that. But considering the fact that the American public educational system is funded by tax dollars. And so what that means is a lot of times, not a lot of times, pretty much in all cases, the better neighborhood or the more taxes that your neighborhood or your zip code pays, the better your school is, right? And so this is why schools in the hood get underfunded, because these areas don't pay as much in taxes as the rich people do. And it's one of those things where our government has the ability to subsidize a lot of things. And a lot of times I find that it subsidizes the wrong things, right? And when I think about countries in Europe or countries anywhere else, other quote unquote first world countries that don't necessarily have these problems concerning education, concerning violence, concerning gun violence, so on and so forth, it's because they specifically dedicate resources to people. Not to things, not to areas, but to people. And so if the federal government would just give all of the same schools the same amount of money and not make it tax dependent, we wouldn't need people like Meek Mill and Kevin Hart to sit up here and donate money out of their own pockets to make sure that Black and brown kids get a decent education. So that's all. Thank you for coming.
That's a good point. Good point. And another thing too, which is why I always push people to participate in local government, is that you have your local officials, and your local officials support in managing the local budget and the monies that go into your school systems and that go into creating job programs and your healthcare system. All of these things are tied to your local government and don't necessarily have a huge oversight from the federal side of the government, unless you live here in Washington, D.C., which we, there's that part. But if you have an elected official and you take the opportunity to go out and vote, that's just the first step. You then have to be an advocate and stay in touch with your city council members. You have to stay in contact with your, state board of education representatives.
Yes.
Like, you have to be a part of the conversation and say, hey, this is where I would like to see money infused. Because even if they say, okay, even if the government says we're going to allot the same amount of money to every single school, despite anything, right? There still has to be some decisions that need to be made to say where parents want that money to be allocated. So it's like, if you want that to go into laptops or into technology, I mean, there was this awesome program in Seattle that they just launched where, students are, learning this whole like 3D, architecture and all of this other stuff. Like, where do you want your money to be infused to? And, do you want it to be in sports and recreation? Do you want it to go into libraries? where do you want that money to go? And I think it's important that we not only support our elected officials during campaign season, but that we continue to have a seat at that table to talk about where we want those funds to be allocated, and work alongside those community-based organizations who are already doing the work to say, like, hey, this organization, you know, we want them to continue getting this grant funding because they're doing such great work here. And that's a lot of work for some people, right? But it takes more than just tuning in our show or tapping in on social media and dropping like a line. Like, you should like testify when there's a meeting at the town hall. Like, you should show up to your parent teacher conferences, or send an email to somebody who can, you know, say something about the matter, right? Like, be a part of those decision-making process. We have some super there's a lot of seniors. We call them our super seniors. Our super seniors, like, they get their group of people and they give us this. And they're like, these are our demands. Like, this is what we want to see. And they come every quarter, every budget season, every meeting. If it's not one person in that group, it's somebody else. And so I love when people are really strong advocates. And it may not be you, but you may be somebody to say, like, I have this idea and I'm going to pass it on to JC, because JC has the time to go and show up to that meeting and he's going to drop that in. So I always
like to say too, like, a lot of people look at voting as like the first step. No, voting is like step 3 or 4. Like, the community engagement is actually what empowers the vote, right? It's the ability to hold these elected officials feet to the fire when they don't do what they say they're going to do, right? Like, the voting is extremely important, yes, but it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, because I cast my vote for a person, but if there is no community infrastructure to actually, like I said, to make sure that what you said you're gonna do, you actually do them, it's missing. Like, there's a whole bunch of steps in between that we just don't utilize right now. And the older generation, they get it. They really do. And the younger generation, I must say, Generation Z or X or 2 or 3, whatever's going on, they kind of get it too. I don't know what happened with us millennials. We kind of dropped the ball. I don't know, but like,
millennials, we're kind of, some of us get it because we're raised and we cherish our baby boomers above us, who are like, this is the way you get it done. But there's a lot of us who are just like sleep at the wheel. But be involved, get engaged. Like, don't be that guy who's just sitting in the house, like, not, complaining about stuff, but not actually doing anything. Right? So, all right. But shout out to Meek Mill and, of course, Michael Rubin. Of course, giving $7 million to Michael Rubin is a drop in the bucket. But collectively, this is a great thing. This is a really fun topic that I wanted to talk about. And I say fun, not so much in a laughing manner, but fun in that it's always good to rip someone apart when they're wrong. Akon, you guys, is talking real greasy about African Americans, despite the fact that his entire career here in America and the fact that he was born in St. Louis is at the palms of Black America. Here's a video that breaks it all down. We'll come back. We'll talk about it then. Stay tuned. Go ahead and run that footage, Cuddy.
African.
Yeah.
We a little different when it comes to stage presence. Not America. Oh,
in words.
Wobbling, pants hanging half down, bored as hell, half asleep because they high as hell on stage.
Yeah.
But Africa, we wake up morning like, look at these YouTube clips of all these kids from Uganda and how they be. You know what I'm saying? Like, these kids are performers. Like, so for us, it comes natural. Like to watch the kids from.
For this new year, we're not engaging in none of these diaspora boys to perpetuate the pale supremacist idea of divide and conquer. Because that's exactly what Akon, you feel me, start to engage in. Akon just engaged in anti-Black pathology that makes Black people look like buffoons, and he did it while using African-American vernacular English, which is kind of funny. Now, could Akon have talked about the great performance of the Africans in Uganda without putting down the Africans in America? Yes. This is a screenshot of Akon's first hit single entitled Locked Up, literally conceptualizing the prison industrial complex and how it uniquely impacts African Americans. Not only that, has built an entire career off the backs of Black culture here in America. So when I start talking about not engaging in diasporic wars, is being able to make an analysis that does not perpetuate pale supremacy in a way that comes at the expense of our fellow individuals or other members in the African diaspora. Huey P. Newton said that we have to think globally and act locally. And what I know from thinking globally is that this little narrative he's concocted about African Americans being high and drunk and having our pants being down and all that over there, that same narrative is weaponized against Nigerians when it came to SARS. We see how when you start to deploy these anti-Black pathologies about what you feel like is what Black folks doing in America, it also impacts Black people throughout the diaspora. Ever since Akon got this little toupee hair transplant, he been acting real different. Convict Music is the name of his record label. And as you see, the literal logo of his record label is an appropriation of the American abolition symbol. It was almost like you trying to give us a little authenticity test for how African we is, talking about it's natural for them, like it's not natural for us. Come on now, we don't do that. Growing up, I listened to this album. So much love you make. Listen to it, Mama Africa, Mommy Africa. My man used hip hop, a uniquely African American cultural product, to literally line his pockets and give him cultural capital to make it what people was interviewing him. He used that influence to then denigrate African American culture and see us through the same lens that the pales see us as. What does it mean to only be able to see your people through the eyes of the colonizer? I would argue that a lot of the ways that diasporic wars happen, anti-Blackness gets deployed in multiple ways, and I hope, let me know in the comment section, was this video anti-Black and calling them out for being anti-Black? Let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I
always love a You said what? What word?
I like
the pales?
The pales. I might have to employ that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lo.
No, I was just gonna say I love when there's a good read on TikTok, when someone just breaks it all the way down. There's also a lot of people criticizing Ziggy, who was the young woman who was interviewing Akon during that segment, who was, I guess, softly agreeing with him, just kind of nodding her head in agreement as he said that. But this right here, being an individual who lived in Africa once before, a Black American living in and on the continent of Africa, it's annoying that you have somebody like Akon who continues to perpetuate this division, right? And saying, like, I don't think it's necessary that you have to tear down one person to amplify the other. Like, he could have talked about African artists and Guyanese artists and saying how great of performers they are without having to say that Black American performers are always high and their pants are sagging down and this and that. When it's like, but Akon, you were about that life. Like, you were that, like, in the 2000s, my guy, like, you were doing the same thing. So what have you now, So I'll let you take a stab at this, JC. Go ahead. Give us a good road.
I got three things. So the first thing is, I got 3 strong points. So the first thing is, I don't know who this Ziggy girl is. I ain't never seen this girl before in my life. But I have as a person that has probably interviewed over 150 people in my career, lifetime, whatever else, I am not a human being that will allow you to sit up here and say some bullshit like that and not check you on it, right? Like, I don't get starstruck. I don't get, no, if you're gonna talk whatever about people that look like me, no, you're not finna do that, bro. Like you said, the new hairline got him acting funny. Like, I don't understand that. Number one. Number two, Akon is an individual that literally he's supposed to be doing all this stuff in Africa and taking all this money. He's been collecting and outsourcing all this, doing all this stuff, supposed to be building lights in Africa and wells and all. None of that's happened. Like, literally none of this happened. Where he's basically the Umar Johnson of Africa. Like, so that's the second thing. The third thing is I'm gonna pull up, it's Kimberly Renee on Instagram. She made a very poignant comment. Like, she read this man for filth. And she says, not St. Louis, Missouri born, Aluane, Damala, Badara, Akon, Tiam, who has been photographed wearing them sagging pants, spitting in the face of people who created the culture that made him rich. Not the man who lied about running a notorious car theft ring and serving time in prison and writing all about it and winning all about it, writing about it all the way to a Grammy win. Have a seat. He ain't acting different. He always been acting. I didn't even know he was from St. Louis because I thought Akon was from New York. So I'm like, I didn't know.
The man was born in America.
The man was born in America. What are you talking about, bruh? Like you as American as apple pie. You're from St. Louis. You're not even I remember this. It was like, I went to jail for a car theft ring. You know, we was boosting the cars. That was a lie. The lie detector test determined that was a lie. And so it's like, how dare you sit up here and you what are you doing right now, bro? Like, who are you right now? This is what we would like to call an industry plant. And I'm done. I'm dropping the mic. I don't got nothing else to say about this man. But he's he's
that. There's always that guy, right? There's always that guy who, you know, he's having this African experience now that he's lived in Ghana and, you know, he's taken over the continent for so long. And now all of a sudden it's like he forgets his American heritage and culture. Like, stop what you're doing, Holmes. Like, we're not going to do that, Akon. And of course he is of African descendants, just like my light skinned ass is too. So he's not going to, this is why we had movies like Wakanda. Like, don't be that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think the TikToker who we posted on this, and there's a couple other videos that break this down a little bit different, but shout out to them, because there's this huge segregation between Africans and Black Americans, as if we are not equal. And I think that one of the YouTubers I was looking at kind of made up, there is no difference. When you see the most poppin', believe me, live there, done that. When you see the most poppin' celebrities on the African continent, they are literally the same as the Black celebrities here in the United States. They dress the same, they act the same, they spend their money the same. The only thing that's different is everybody's accents. Like, it's a united front, it's a vibe. And I would not say, like, how can you even say out of your mouth that arguably that there's better African performers than Black American performers? Like,
the interesting part about that is, like, African Americans literally have the market cornered on pop culture globally. Like, we set the trend. Period. Right. That's the reason why WizKid dresses like us instead of dressing, in ceremonial whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the reason why a person like Akon came here to make music and pop and not go over there. So it's like, it notice how I say all of these things without necessarily putting down anyone on the continent, stating a fact, right? So it's just kind of like, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that? Like, I don't understand. Like, what I always tell people, when someone is lying to you, you have to look at, or saying a mistruth, you have to look at who benefits from the lie, right? So, like, who benefits from Akon saying this? Because once you get to a certain point of wealth, you are disconnected from, anybody that you don't want to be connected to, right? So
are you saying that you're like out of touch?
Yeah, but again, like I said, industry plant. Like, who are you doing this for? Like, what is this? Is this for clickbait? Are you trying to get back popping again? Like, what's the, what I'm saying? Have you been hanging around, the super villain known as Elon Musk and them and Jeff Bezos? Like, what's the what here, right? Because I don't know if y'all know, Elon Musk is the real life Lex Luthor. Like, y'all think that's the real life Lex Luthor. Like, he is a super villain. That man is evil. But I'm just like, who benefits from Akon saying this? Because it ain't us. It ain't anybody to look like him, you or me. So I'm just trying to figure that out.
But you know what? This is the same Akon that also said that African Americans need to get over slavery because white folks don't care They already show you that they don't care. So we need to go ahead and just get over it and move on. So Akon is a wanker. He's just a wanker. Like, can't take him serious. And I do want to say that, like, if I'm in an interview with someone, I have a tendency to go, okay, but I'm never gonna not say, but hold on, because I don't agree with this. Yeah. And I think as journalists, even if you're not this big seasoned journalist, but if you are reporting and you're doing these interviews, you have to take a stance to either, one, protect yourself in your opinion, or two, protect that audience that someone is attacking. And I say all that to say that, what's his name? Who was attacking Ashanti on Drink Champs? Nori had an obligation. Irv and Irv. Thank you.
Yeah, Irv.
When Irv Gotti was talking trash about Ashanti and calling her all types of B's and this, that, and the third, Nori had an obligation, in my opinion, to say, listen, there has to be a certain set of decorum on my show, because I'm going to set the tone in how we have these conversations. Now, you can speak your truth and we can have an intelligent conversation, but let's keep the decorum. And I think Ziggy, and I only saw the viral clip, you guys, so I'm going to give her a little bit of grace, but
I'm not.
It's one of those situations
I'm not.
where she should have said what her opinion was in order to, one, protect herself, and two, protect her audience. And she's trying now to say, like, that's not my opinion, but this is the same social media that talks about Black folks all day long. But that's not what it is. Like, you're providing a platform for somebody to make these kind of statements, and then you're nodding in agreement without saying how you feel on the matter.
Right.
It's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game.
And can we keep going on that one? We got one more left.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the other thing that I want to mention is, going back to your point, I want to back up to that, right? Because you've lived on the continent. I've been to the continent, going back pretty soon. And I just want to say, like, when it comes to disconnection in the diaspora of, like, Africans, Americans, and Caribbeans, like, this is done on purpose, right? So I went to London, and I went to the Black Cultural Archives, which is the British equivalent of the African American History Museum. Nowhere near as grand, because regardless of what y'all might believe, the UK really don't care about Black people. If you think America is bad. And so it's in a 2-story little house, you know what I'm saying? And I go up to the top, and there is a literal timeline of Black people's beginning in the UK and their end, right? And so one of the things that struck me, and it makes me realize that Black people are really living real life science fiction movies, right, is that in the 1950s, you have African and Caribbean people, or African and Caribbean people of British people of African and Caribbean descent, you have people like that putting on plays and shows at the British equivalent of Broadway. While at the same time, 5,000 miles away in the southeastern United States of America, you have Black people being lynched. You have people like my mother who were integrating her high school. You have segregation was at an all-time high, right? And this is the same time period. This is real science fiction. Like, on one hand in America, you got Black people being lynched, and then Black people in the UK are doing shows on Broadway, right? And I'm just like, this is wild. And I have a friend from Angola, and we were talking about this, and he was like, I had no idea about the UK history, and then I had no idea about the American history, right? And I'm like, that's done on purpose. Like, we don't know each other's shared experiences. There is a point at which we diverge, and that is chattel slavery. But there is a point at which we come together, and that's the thing that we should focus on, not the other thing, not the other way around, right? And it just, like I said, when I hear people like Akon and his new hair say the things that he's saying, I'm like, bro, you gotta like, nah, who are you doing this for? Like who benefits? Who benefits? So yeah, that's
and it's a poor opportunity to really speak the misinformation and and promote this very tired ass stereotype of African American entertainment versus African entertainment or versus the world.
right.
And you're right. The focus should be on the synergies of just Black entertainment as a whole, as Africans as a whole.
Yes.
And I think it's a great point that you bring up about us not understanding our shared experiences. Because I would even argue that on the African continent, there's a lot of other experiences that we don't know about, just their
Absolutely.
own internal wars,
Absolutely.
and their own enslavement and their own, their own struggles and tribulations that created who that, country is, that community is. And we don't take enough time to have that level of understanding. So yeah,
The thing
that's
that
dope.
the thing that Africans themselves, that I have to remind Africans, like continental Africans, is like the Africa that you live in now is not the same Africa before colonialization, right? You have Africa and then you have Africa interrupted, right? So your culture isn't even the same culture as it was before them white people came on shores, right? And so some of the things that Africans hold on to like vehemently are only like and speak about it as if it is canon, right? As if it has always been, just started existing in the last 200 or 300 years, right? And so that's the one thing I always like to, like, whenever Africans, because sometimes you have Africans like Akon that like to talk down on, African Americans or Caribbeans, whatever else. I have to remind them, like, bro, your country ain't even your country. Your continent ain't even your continent, bro. It's not even the same place as it was when your great granddaddy was here, and that's not even that far back. So relax. But that's just me.
Relax and don't sweat that Beijing out, brother.
That thing glued on. What you mean, girl? It's a quick week.
Good hairline. We have hairline, since we don't have much. We don't have enough to have a whole conversation about this. But did you see Tory Lanez's mugshot?
I didn't. Is he bald? Is he got the bald spots popping?
No, he's got his good lace front on.
He got the good lace front. They like good lace.
Good lace
Cuddy,
front.
do we have a picture?
No, we don't. We don't have a picture of it, but go and Google it. Just look it up. It's quite. It looks like a collaboration. It looks like a senior picture, like a high school yearbook picture, and album cover in the future after he gets out of jail.
I'm looking it up.
Shout out to Tory Lanez's hairdresser. I hope he's got some good hair glue. Shout out to him.
It does look remarkably nice. Actually, I'm confusion.
It looks like
this ain't the mugshot.
And he has like a pink jacket on.
That's not the mugshot, is it? Wait a minute.
Yep, that's the mugshot.
Oh wow, it looks like it looks like one of them high school prom pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like the Lifetime joints, the Lifetime watermark across. Yeah, that's good for him.
Exactly.
Good for him.
All right, y'all. Well, that's our show tonight. Thank you for tuning in to Clapback Culture. JC on the OVT network. Where can they find you when you're not here on Clapback Culture on Thursday nights?
Y'all can find me. My personal Instagram is JC from the OVT, and of course, the OVT network's Instagram social media handle is at the OVT network. Very simple. I try to keep it simple. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I don't really use Twitter like that, but it's the same on everything. So y'all can follow me there.
Do you actually use your TikTok?
The OVT network has 52,000 followers. Yes.
Okay, first. I gotta get on. I gotta do more on TikTok. It's just I know it's a rabbit hole, so I haven't done it yet. But look, y'all,
I've been slacking.
You said what?
Oh no, my bad. I'm saying I've been slacking. To be honest with you, I know I've been slacking. I'm my bad, everybody. Life is lifing, so I have been slacking. I'm gonna get back to posting content real soon. But yeah,
remember that was our New Year's resolution.
Yeah, you're right.
Come on, okay, we're gonna hold each other accountable.
Yes, I got you.
Let's do it. I mean, we did good. We had the show sheet together last night.
We did. I was looking at that. I was like, damn, we doing.
I was proud of us. I was proud of us.
It's behind the scenes stuff, y'all.
Baby
Thank you, Miss
steps.
Harriet, for the
Baby
compliment,
steps.
by the way.
All right, y'all. Excuse me. Well, I'm Jules Jessie. You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Treasure of JULES, and TikTok, same thing, at Treasure of JULES. I'm gonna start posting on there too. So please pull up, follow me, and shoot me your show topics. Let me know what you want to talk about. And thank you so much for tuning in. All right, y'all. Well, that's our show. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, be peaceful. Peace.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.